Ish.
Go.
Hello and welcome to Out of Mana podcast. This is episode number 6, all about 5.2 and all the different changes within it. And I want to introduce our special guest, Twisted Mind, if you want to introduce yourself or anything.
Times more difficult than...
Yeah, sure. Hi, community. My name's Twisted Mind. You might have seen me on the forum. I feel very qualified to talk about healers. I've been playing Mists of Pandaria for a month. I just bought World of Warcraft because my favorite movie in real life is Kung Fu Panda. I feel like I really identify with the character, Jack Black, because I'm morbidly obese, furry, and obnoxious in real life. And I just dinged level 70, so I definitely have experience doing my first raid. And I have plenty of info to share about all of my knowledge that I've accumulated.
I hate you so much.
I think it's brilliant. Wow. Best intro ever.
No, I'm kidding, guys. I've been playing since, the Gates of EQ opened. I missed it by maybe a week or two. So I've been playing a priest since then. I kind of took a couple years off to play druid, but I've been healing the whole way. It's been a hard road, and for a lot of years I kind of really was bad. So I looked to the community to see a lot of questions that I needed answers to, and over the years I've kind of picked up a lot, and about sometime last expansion is when I decided I knew enough that it's probably my turn to start giving back to the community. So you can see me on forums. I have a YouTube channel. Sometimes I live stream and you can see my big dumb face as I'm trying to do encounters while I'm playing with my mouth and squinting my eyes and moving my head back and forth with every deafening blow that hits our raid. And I'm also barely coherent in my live streams and in YouTube. They're horrible. Don't look at them. I felt like I should really establish my credibility early on and set the bar really high for people to have those good expectations.
I do quite believe that your introduction is much longer than my original one.
Miss, no.
Am I doing it right, Coach?
Yes, you are. And in more important news, I'm back, so hi.
In more important news, Miss finally got a headset that works. And he'll be joining us again, so we'll be able to talk about monks, because I'm getting a text, so let's ignore my phone. But he'll be able to talk about monks again. So that should be interesting. And if we're sorry about the whole weird how this looks on the stream, guys, my overlays refused to work for me, and we didn't want to be any later than it was, so yeah.
It looks nice. Come on.
It looks okay. I mean, I can screen region in other random things now.
That may be dangerous.
It makes me wish I misspelled my name. I spell it like T-W-I-Z-T-D.
So, we're going to be talking all about cruise views on 5.2, and I did that because it rhymed. And rhymes are funny. I'm just kind of waiting for Miss to call me something, call me a name or something.
I'd never do such a thing. I'm a nice guy. Complete angel.
So, what's everybody thinking about 5.2? I know shamans didn't get hit at all, really. I mean, we've got a couple changes to our stone bulwark totem, but, that's really it. I haven't really noticed anything. Oh, well, conductivity got a bit of a buff, but I still use healing tide totem. I heard monks got hit a bit more. What did you...
I wouldn't say that monks got hit more. It's just we've been thrown into the classic position of every new class, and we have to relearn how to play. I mean, ultimately, we can still do exactly what we did healing-wise and throughput-wise that we did last match. We just do it a little bit differently. Which isn't a problem, it's just a little annoying, because it is a significant difference, but ultimately we're still relatively in the same spot. It's not so bad. But, yeah.
Yeah, for those who don't know, what did actually happen to monks that's flipped up their whole game is Jab is now 8% of their mana, Muscle Memory is something that you get when you press a jab, and the next time you spend T on one of your offensive spells, like Tiger Palm or Blackout Kick, it refunds the mana for 4%, but what it's really breaking is it'll oom you really fast to jab twice in a row. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, essentially it's shifted into doing one of two things. We're almost done with normal as this tier right now, so I've been able to do a lot of different tests. Essentially, you can play one of two ways. You can play just sitting at range, just casting through the mist, pressing renewing mist, and uplifting, which is completely fine, and I assume I'll be doing that a lot more during Heroics, or you could take a more active role in DPS. But if you're going to DPS, every time you jab, you have to basically either Tiger's Paw, or you have to follow up that jab with a Renewing Mist or an Expel Heart to Blackout Kick. Because you never want to jab twice, unless you have... Well, you never want to jab twice, ever. So, if you're ever using anything that costs... if you're ever using Muscle Memory, you always want to couple it with Expel Heart or Renewing Mist for... Blackout Kicks. Additionally, though, it's fluid. There's periods of time where you're going to be waiting for something to come off a quota, but it's not really that bad. The only thing is you kind of have to learn when you can and you can't DPS. Because there are periods of time where you're not going to want to do that, because you're going to need to be up to as usual. So I mean, ultimately, you still keep your renewing best spread. You still, want to play it the way you did before. You just can't spam jab. It's not so bad. And it's actually pretty efficient. I'm looking at cutting a lot more spirit. I'm down to almost 10k, and I still think I have too much right now. But I don't know. I still enjoy it, while it might be a little annoying right now.
Mr. Mist, I have a question.
Oh. What? Go ahead.
So there's a lot of talk about Power Strikes and Ascension with this new playstyle.
I can already tell you I would never support Ascension. Ascension is useful for one thing and one thing alone, which would be more mana from muscle memory and mana tea, and frankly, I don't feel like we're hurting badly enough to need it. Essentially, the choices are Power Strikes and Chi Brew. Chi Brew, while I don't plan on using it often, is still like about 100 times better than Ascension. Just because you have that on-demand sheet. Right now I'm using Power Strikes personally. It's one of my favorite abilities. And it makes that little rotation for DPS a lot easier. I'm thinking when I get into Heroics, if I have to cut back on how much I DPS and shift more into the just channeling Soothing Mist, I'll probably Chi Brew a lot more. But Ascension, I don't see a reason to use it. The mana is not tight enough to justify it.
Cool. I did Twisted Mind, notorious for spending more time on Excel spreadsheets and actually playing the game he loves. I did do some DPS tests with this new rotation to kind of see how those two talents played. If there is an ability to do cleave, because Blackout kicks cleave, if you get the extra chi, that's pretty cool. One of the things you can do is squeeze out more chi. If you have Ascension, you can squeeze out that chi without wasting time doing mana stacking, which means you can drop you can drop more mana into Surging Mists, and I noticed that if you kind of did it before you reached 5 stacks and you kind of juggled around that way, I was able to get my DPS pretty close to even with the Power Strikes for just sustained. But that's a really convoluted rotation. You would never be able to do it in a practical raid.
Right. Honestly, this kind of goes back to what we were complaining about earlier. When it comes to things that should be, mathematically equal, they're not always practical, especially with a class like this.
Yeah. But something else, just some fun fact trivia. I did do some sustained, just like comparing power strikes to Chi Brew, and Chi Brew takes a slight hit in the DPS healing per set, but it's like not enough to not justify taking it if you're strictly doing fist weaving like an LFR or something. I mean, it's still a really good talent for sustained.
Chi Brew is not good because of chi generation. Chi Brew is good because it gives you control burst, with little to no setup. Or you can do additional setup. I mean, you can say pool 4 chi with like 14, 15 renewing this out, dump 2 uplifts, Chi Brew, dump 2 more uplifts. And I mean, it's stuff like that that makes it a good talent.
Real quick, everybody in chat just complaining that there is a little static on Twisted. That is true, but he sat on his actual mic, so this is just a backup mic that he has. So, yeah.
Yes, recall. I'm really fat in real life, fat and fuzzy and obnoxious, and I forget where things are on my chair. And my huge butt, which barely fits in the chair, doesn't check before it sits, so it went to the afterlife for all whatever microphones.
You're such a liar.
Yeah, that's the reason I have the mic I have now, was my, I didn't sit on it, but my cat decided to jump on top of it, so.
How big is your cat?
I've got a cat that's...
Jesus.
I have a cat that weighs about 15 pounds.
Oh.
Big cat. Anyway, continue with what you were saying, Mist.
I got one.
Okay.
Yeah, we're talking about monk stuff, but now that I've kind of squeezed you for all of your super knowledge, because that Mist guy, he's pretty good. He knows stuff.
I'm pretty terrible.
So these new talents that don't cost any chi, what are those things all about, eh?
Alright, so honestly, right now, the new tier 30 talents, they're probably my biggest complaint with the tier, or with the patch. Specifically because I was one of those people who really enjoyed using Chi Burst as a dump for my Chi whenever I wasn't doing anything. But basically, they put them into a situation where they're pretty powerful cooldowns that vary greatly on a fight-by-fight basis. So you'll have, say, you have Chi-Wave. Chi-Wave it works the same way as it always has. It's just a little bit stronger now. It's free and it's on a 15-second cooldown, which means you can almost use it on cooldown, and it'll bounce around, heal tanks, do whatever, blah blah blah. I tend to use it on fights where we're not stacked, or I won't be able to get the full usage out of Chi Burst is really powerful. However, since it's on a 30-second cooldown, you basically only really want to use it whenever it's gonna do a lot of healing on the whole raid. It's good. It basically makes it so that you have a nice free way to handle raid damage on a cooldown, just in case shit hits the fan or whatever. It doesn't detract too much, but at the same time, it's kind of left us in a situation where the only things we can spend chi on are either DPS or uplift, which is not an option that many of us are happy with. That's personally, I spent a lot of time during the PTR complaining to Ghostcrawler about it. Apparently,
complaining? No.
Oh,
Mist doesn't complain.
But apparently, I don't know what I'm talking about, and it was a good idea, according to them. Overall, it's a nice change for the glass. For Mistweavers, I don't know. That's a little inconvenient, but it works. I mean, I still use Chi-Burst, and I still use Chi-Wave a lot. I have not used Zensphere. I have not found any real use for Zensphere, and it was changed quite a bit. If people don't know what the change was, it was, you no longer have control over the detonation, however you can put 2 out at the same time. Except, the annoying part about it is that say you put one Zen Sphere on somebody, and by the time it comes off a cooldown, the first Zen Sphere is like going away. So you essentially only have 2 up at the same time for a few seconds at best. It's still does like okay healing, but it just really hasn't had the usage I wish it did. Basically, maybe there's going to be a point in the future that I'm not looking at yet that I want it. Right now, not so much.
Is that like supposed to be their version of, oh man, miss, they slipped under the radar and we didn't give them some annoying spell to have to micromanage on the tank. Well, let's make it this button. That'll trick them.
I think so. I think so. I'm not sure.
So
I
now,
just don't see a real point in using it personally.
so now now Mist has Monks. It's one of those M words. So now Monks
Okay.
has a spell they have to micromanage on a tank, or
No, only if you choose to use them. Sure. I mean, I'm not using it.
so. On to the next topic. So how about that Disc Priest QQ?
Oh wait, one more important service announcement for monks. Chi Torpedo is still very overpowered, so you can pretty much abuse it for the majority of this tier, save for 1 or 2 fights, like Darumu, where you don't want to accidentally Chi Torpedo off the ledge. But everything else, it's still really stupidly overpowered, and I still have no idea why it wasn't nerfed. But yeah, go ahead, move on.
So how about that Disc Priest QQ?
We knew it was coming.
Are we crying? Are we supposed to be crying?
Yes, we are twisted. We're broken and unplayable, and we're going to be benched, and we have to go holy or reroll as paladins because we're basically terrible and can't heal anymore because crit is useless for this priest. And what's the new one? Power Word Shield sucks because there's a tooltip error. There's probably more things, but basically, yes, we're trash and we should go holy or go home.
Look at the priest forums and healing forums. The way, I don't know, but I'd have to say probably 80% of the priest population is talking right now is that Disc is a completely unplayable spec and that you guys are just worth throwing away in the trash now.
Yes, we suck.
Okay, I'll offer a different opinion because I keep playing my Disc Priest.
Well, real quick, because we have a question from chat for the 2 Disc Priest, but she said mostly at Twisted. At what value of spirit would you suggest pushing haste? And how much would you value haste below a 4.7k cap? So apparently somebody did a bit of research on you, Twisted.
Like, they'd be stalking me in real life? You didn't find those pictures, I hope.
That was
That was
my
like
job.
when I was in my early 20s. I hope those are down.
No, I think they searched your character on the World of Warcraft site. Because you do have, it's like, what, 4,720 something? Haste?
Yeah, like, we all have different opinions about that. There are some really good priests out there, discipline specific, who are totally gearing differently than me. My deal with haste is the reason I keep throwing around it's 4,751 actually. It's a soft cap for Spirit Shell. It's 16.6% haste. It's like a soft cap for Spirit Shell, but it's also a lot of good things for Holy. Like it's an extra light will tick. It's right over a Sanctuary tick. So there's a lot of like sweet things that happen when you reach that number. It's also really good for a Borrowed Time combo. Like you can fit in like one more spell. So I mean, like that's why I was like throwing it around. But in terms of like Spirit, I still try to like soft cap Rapture first, and then I just start stacking Spirit point for point equal to haste. But you know that's not like a hard and fast rule. If you don't use like your spells in the same way that I do, and I use mine pretty weird, like comparatively to a lot of people, then you can probably get away with more Spirit or less. Like it's really up to you. A lot of people are showing that they've had a lot of success with doing things like stacking tons of mastery with no haste, and they've cleared normal. Or there are some people out there who are kind of stacking everything equally and not really paying attention to like what's really going on, and they're clearing normals too. But yeah, my advice for the specific question, which was how much Spirit should you have? Currently, I'm at that haste soft cap, and I feel just about fine at 12k. spirit, and on the fights that were giving me trouble with just like longer fights, like the headed dragon, beast chick, whatever, I actually just flask spirit for that instead of int. That's like my little quick fix for that if I feel like my mana's lacking.
Right. Did that answer your question there? I think that was Avery who asked.
Yeah, I mean, I can also talk a little bit more about mana. The new Solus talent, I wrote up this like super mega thread about math behind it. Really, if you do take Solus, it is more mana back than optimal Mindbender Shadow use or Shadow Fiend usage if you use it more than 20 seconds. And that's only at 0 stacks of Evangelism. If you're able to like keep your stacks of Evangelism rolling in your discipline, you would have kind of theoretically already been casting like Holy Fire anyway. So it's actually like 16 seconds at 5 stacks of Evangelism. So that talent, I mean, you can squeak out more mana with it. But I mean, there's been a lot of fights this tier that I switched back to Mindbender just because it takes a lot of micromanagey stuff, and sometimes you just really don't have time to sit there and play all the little discipline games that they throw at you. So Mindbender still is a place, and to be perfectly honest, on a lot of fights that we start, we go into it as healers, not really paying attention to our mana. We just try to like down as far as we can if we're just seeing it for the first time. So my default is From Darkness Comes Light on a lot of the fights where we just first start out. And that's like we don't know anything about them. Like my raid group, we don't study up all the strategy and the PTR and all that. I play the PTR, but I don't really try to invest too much in it. And we kind of just take the raids as they happen. So a lot of our strategy this week and guesswork, it often feels like we're just sort of like grasping at straws. And that's where I find a place for the Surge of Light procs. So yeah, that talent tier for mana is also like, pretty close to equal. Like Mindbender isn't significantly behind Solus.
The new disc, Joe.
What?
Your thoughts on the disc changes?
Well, I like them. I think Atonement being buffed with Penance being stronger and mana being good with the Power Word Solus. It's a nerf, but overall I haven't found it to be anywhere nearly as extreme as was predicted or as some people seem to think it is. There's been a drop, but not a significant one. I think we needed a nerf, and I think we got what we needed, but we were not over nerfed. And I'm actually really happy with where I am in 5.2. I like the changes.
Yeah, me too. It wasn't really a problem for me last year until I started getting that gear, and then my fights sort of slowly became prayer heal spam, at the complete exclusion of any other button, so that wasn't cool.
But see, I never got to the point where I was doing that, so I think people that were relying on spamming prayer of healing for the whole fight, feeling things a lot more than I did, since I wasn't. What I'm doing now is basically what I did in 5.1 as well, so I'm not seeing a big change.
Yeah, same here. Like, in terms of my spell casting, I kind of thought I would have to totally change up my gameplay, but I literally haven't changed, like, anything really that drastic between this patch and that. I mean, I used to cast Power Word Shield a lot more previously. Like, most people average kind of before the changes, they were doing it at about every 16 to 18 seconds. I was kind of closer to 14. I think on the log where I used it the most, my average cast time between them was 9 seconds or something like that. So, I might be casting a little bit faster, but my spell breakdowns in terms of the actual spells cast, not the healing done, is pretty much like the same buttons. I haven't changed much.
Yep, same for me. It's pretty much the only thing I've noticed that's a big difference is my overhealing is a lot less than it was before.
Oh yeah,
That's
way
really
less.
done. Yeah, exactly. I was looking. I mean, I know overheal overall doesn't mean that much, but I was looking. I'm like, wow, my overheal. I look pretty awesome. My overhealing is like really low.
I mean, I guess if you want to talk about gameplay changes, the one thing that I am doing is Holy Fire is, since it's now an instant cast, it's coded that way instead of being a spell that was glyphed before. I'm using it with Borrowed Time, like it doesn't consume Borrowed Time anymore, so that's like the one little gameplay change, and maybe a little bit better cooldown usage with Penance, but other than that, no, nothing big.
Does it work now that you said it's a real instant now? Does Inner Will affect it now, or does it
Yeah.
still not count? Oh, it does. Cool.
Yeah. They really did some sweet stuff with it, so it's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, from doing stuff with you earlier, Joe, and with Bren afterwards, and just running around doing quests and everything with Disc Priest. I mean, it's not as much as if I once again to a raid with a Disc Priest or something like that. But it doesn't really look like too much got nerfed by way of atonement, at least, because it actually seemed that your penance was healing for a lot more.
Penance it was beefed up, so yeah.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
Yeah.
See,
Although there is something like a little quick stipulation about this atonement. On the first day it came out, the bug with crit heals from atonements carried over to live and was doing like less than the normal healing.
yeah, that was annoying.
Yeah, but they
but
hotfixed
thankfully
that, didn't
they did fix that. See, that's the thing why I'm not noticing that much of a nerf, because yes, while it was a nerf, my playstyle of choice was buff via the buff to penance, so it balances out.
Yeah, and one other thing, they kind of did a whole lot of stuff to like spells, like Power Word Shield spell cost reduced, but now Rapture is like changed its percentage and all that. They try to keep it pretty much where it is. Like, you still soft cap your Rapture at 9,150 Spirit. They just change around those two percentages, and now what that means is, like, over that number, your Spirit from regen from Rapture isn't going to just, like, go out of control anymore. So that changed a bit, but, you know, they're trying to get us to cast it more often, too. I mean, sitting in Inner Will and spamming it on a few people, I was kind of trying it out in the big turtle fight. I mean, I guess I could say, like, I'm using it to spot people who didn't get shelled, like from Spirit Shell, because that's all we have.
Right.
But, I mean, I kind of did that before the patch, too, you know? I mean, that's, like, part of playing Discipline is, like, you know, prayer healing, it doesn't hit everybody all the time. You kind of need to be smart with where you're placing your absorbs before predictable damage.
I fully agree.
Yeah, I do, too.
I'll say that I'm glad that there have been significantly less moments where I wanted to gut our priests and burn them alive. Because, you know,
Kill it in
just
fire?
priests. Yeah. I've been pretty happy, like, everything seems to be fairly in line.
Well, unless you're on Fang, you couldn't really kill it in fire now, could you?
Yeah,
They need to add more fire. That's true. What happened? Blizzard, what happened? Yeah, there's no fire in anything ever.
It's like you have Stone Guards where you can't stand in shit, and then you have Fang where you can't stand in shit, and then you have a few other fights where you can't stand in shit, but there's not really anything going out, or it's not going out quite as often until you get to Emperor.
There's not very much shit.
I could see
crazy.
the developers like creating these encounters, and like for the first two, they kind of gave it to the interns, and they're like, "Okay, well, there's fire," and then like the big guys came down, and I'm like, "No, come on, guys,
No
that's so
fire.
2006. Come on, get on our level." And then they just like eliminated fire from every single encounter.
Well, we come out of Cataclysm where every single raid,
Everything is fire.
every single raid had, well, not just fire,
Everywhere.
but every raid, every boss had something that was constantly going out that you couldn't stand in or you pretty much died. So now you have that. And then, I mean, through the first tier, through Firelands, obviously, through Dragon Soul, and then we come into this first tier of Mists, where in Stone Guards, the only time you can't stand in anything is if they're not petrifying you. And if they're petrifying you and you stand in something, it's like, oh, what's tickling me? And then you get Fang, where the only way you would stand in something bad is if, you know, whoever had it on them dropped it in the middle of your group. Which, if they're dropping it in the middle of your group, they don't deserve to be raiding, because they're obviously not paying attention.
There's fire and this okay, there's Darumu and Iron Khan. There's fire in this. Lots of
Yay.
it.
In the second
Yay.
tier, they've brought fire back.
Like in 2 fights.
That's
Death
awesome.
to range DPS, more melee.
Well, see, now there's no ranged DPS that has an excuse to not stack.
That's true.
Yeah.
Because the only class that had the excuse was Hunters, and they now no longer have a minimum range. So we do have a couple of questions in the chat from Wow Profits, who does another podcast. So, first thing he wants to know is: are Holy Paladins only tank healers, or are they still valid now for raid AOE healing?
Paladins haven't been like specifically tank healers for a really long time now.
I'd say since ICC, really.
Yeah, I mean, Paladins can raid heal, but Paladins also, like, I mean, using my gun as an example, like, Beacon of Light is really good, and they do make probably the best tank healers that I know, like, just because of cooldowns and all that fun stuff. So we always almost use our Paladins as tank healers, but I see other guilds, and their Paladins are, like, EF blanketing and doing a lot of ridiculous healing.
Well,
They can do it.
Paladins still do have a bulk of their makeup is tank healing, but they now do have better abilities to spread heal and AoE heal.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think last year we didn't see them just like rolling over the raid as much because Holy Radiance is just so expensive, but I mean, they have more spirit now. Like, they're definitely on the hot plate for becoming out of control very quickly, because that's like half of the equation to being an overpowered healer is like, I mean, you can have all the spells you can spam all day, that's like part of it, but you really can't do it unless you can sustain it. Well, Paladins have been laying low because they've been like waiting to get enough spirit to do, I don't know, Return of the Kata Icy, or the Dragon Soul,
where all you did
spam.
was spam Holy Radiance the entire time.
Yeah, the problem with that is going to be once it becomes sustainable, they're going to get nerfed because Blizzard, for some reason, already, showed that they don't like paladins having fun. So
yeah, but he said,
I mean, it was nerfed once already. So.
He said, so are they sort of like utility healers for raid-wide healing, but should focus on tank healing instead? I'm kind of interpreting that way.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I really wish they would put in some more interesting, like my Captain Greg Street once upon a time said they can be really selective with their buttons because they do have some nice single target spotty heals and there's no ramp up for it. But Beacon Cleave, they kind of want you to look at situations where you might actually put Beacon on somebody besides the tank. Oh my gosh. So, that's his intention.
Bite your tongue.
Well, yeah, I mean, they have situations like that, but they would have to include raid mechanics that warrant it. So far there really hasn't been anything. Like a heavy debuff on one person, you can pop your beacon onto them and heal them, blah blah blah. But like I said, they really haven't encouraged that via raid mechanic.
Yeah. They're too busy, in the development team, stroking over Clemency. That's their role. Clemency is the utility they bring.
Clemency is probably their most prized possession. I'm pretty sure. But no, the important thing really is to note that with the advent of 10-man rating, even 25, just with classes being fairly equal across the board. You could probably put a paladin in the raid healing role and have them do fine. And you could equally put a monk in the tank healing role and have them do fine. It's just, play to your raid strength. And
that's nice for stability, right? Because paladins, their mastery, their shields aren't getting any smaller. Their gear's going up from here, so they're kind of acting like little mini disc priests in terms of just pressing down the damage a bit. That's not a bad role for them to play. In a raid.
Right.
It's really not. It's just, if Blizzard doesn't control it and it goes a little bit overboard, we're gonna have a problem.
Blizzard doesn't do that.
It won't be nice for paladins, because, I mean, we all remember what the community did to paladins the first time Holy Radiance was just overpowered as hell. They kind of just got shot in the foot, and then in the head. And then in the head a bunch more times. So, yeah. They better hope they don't get too overpowered.
Yeah, it's Greg Street and gets out a shotgun whenever some nerfage needs to happen.
Shotgun? I thought he got out a rocket launcher.
Well, for some classes, not paladins. For paladins, it's always a shotgun because they can immunity the rocket launcher, so he needs to split his burst up so it's not so focused.
I mean, they could always, go with their new stuff that they employed with monks. So they're like, yeah, we're gonna do this reasonable nerf. It'll be okay. And then, they do it, and 2 days later, they're just like, oh, here's another one. Bet you weren't expecting that one, guys. Yeah.
So
I'm still bitter about that.
go ahead.
No, I'm just saying I'm still bitter about that.
You don't complain. You okay?
Yeah, I'll stop crying now.
See, Twist doesn't complain though. Mist doesn't complain though. Okay, he doesn't complain. He gives constructive criticism that nobody listens to.
Okay.
I got a guy that lives out my building that does that. I don't know what he's doing.
And by nobody listens to, I mean to say that we all just kind of block him out because he likes to complain. I mean, give constructive criticism.
So funny.
So
Next question.
well, we'll do questions in a little bit because we still have to talk about the buffs that druids got.
Oh, yes. Love me, Drew.
Well, actually, wait, hold on. Let's cover that last question that he sent because I have something to say and we can lead into Druid.
So what? What are the best AOE heals overall?
Yeah. While I'm pretty sure there's no solid consensus yet. Just gauging by what I've seen from my Resto Druid and from other Resto Druids on World of Logs, Druids are really powerful right now.
They'll be getting a nerf bat to the face sooner or later.
I was legitimately impressed by just our Druids output.
Oh, if Miss was impressed, he'll definitely get the nerf bat.
And I think it's because Blizzard managed to make fights that Druids can make full usage of Mushroom. You know exactly when you need to explode your mushrooms on the whole raid. And, yeah. And there's enough sustained healing, blah blah blah. I mean, other healers are riding Druids as well, but it was definitely something I was not expecting at all. But yeah, we can talk more about other Druid stuff. But I'm gonna probably start saying that they're overpowered and try to get them nerfed, because why not?
Because
Leave the stoners alone. It's there's only 4% of the world firsts that are just acing the Druid class, and everyone else is just dude, my rate growth is
I played
so
Druid
good.
for 6 years. I feel like they need to just suck and I don't play one,
Gee, thanks.
Mist, go stand in the corner now. It's Vera's turn to talk.
So wait, hold on.
I'm
real
gonna go
quick.
hide in a corner.
Before Miss leaves and stands in a quarter on Drew's orders, are you saying that because you don't play the class that it should be nerfed?
He also thinks Priest should be deleted from the game.
I do, but actually I don't feel that way that much anymore because I don't think priests are broken right now.
Yeah.
But
Okay, now go stand in
a
the
couple
corner
weeks
like
ago-
Joe told you to.
a couple weeks ago I would have agreed with that, Joe.
I know.
So go ahead,
Miss.
Vero. What do you think about the Druid changes?
Well, I've only really done it from a PvP standpoint, and even then it's only been in Battlegrounds, but I mean, I've always loved my Druid, and I still love my Druid, but I've mainly been playing my Priest. Sorry, Druid.
Your Druid's just kind of sitting there weeping because you're not playing it.
Come to
Maybe
the
just a
dark
little.
side.
Technically, it'd be
Join
the
us.
light side, because she's Alliance, but, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But I've been trying to do, the tier 14 raids, because people keep needing a healer. But it seems like anytime anybody needs a healer or needs me to heal, I'm doing something else.
Well, get that IRC raid team going. Let's go. Let's go.
Let's go right now. Let's get some people.
All right, let's go. We'll do the rest of the podcast from a raid.
Did you ever post about who wanted to do stuff?
Yeah,
After we-
a couple people added me.
Brett and I
Okay.
would do it.
I will do it as
Adding
long as I
DPS or
can.
healers.
The fun I've seen on the
heal
forum, a lot of
DPS.
people seem to be liking the Druid changes. And I'm glad that they started working on Mushroom.
Yeah, mushrooms, I actually do have a few things I can talk about with mushrooms. The shroom.
I bet.
Go
I
ahead,
mean, it's
Stoner.
actually,
We like the shrooms now, apparently.
yeah, that's why I love the druid. Like, I just know that the people who are working on the druid class are definitely those guys that they just kind of hired, and then they were just like, oh, what have we done? Because they're just sitting there like every day. So like, let's turn into trees this expansion. That's like a really stellar idea, yeah. And the next expansion, so like mushrooms. No, but so there are a few changes with the shrooms, and here's some math I guess to throw at it. People are looking at the overhealing from the rejuve ticks and thinking like, oh, is it now good to just like wait for my mushrooms to like fully stack up to my health cap before exploding them? Like, you know, is that like a viable strategy to just spam rejuvenation for that purpose? And I mean, I've done a little bit of math on that and played in the PTR, and it's nice that you get that little bonus from the overhealing, but I didn't think it was justified to sit there and stack it like and only cast my shrooms like once per minute. Because I mean, you need like it's only a quarter per tick of overhealing. So at a 36% overhealing, it's like 40 ticks. I mean, that's a lot of just sitting there waiting for your shroom to get super big before you can blow them up. So, I mean, you don't want to use them rotationally because it's still a healing per second lost rotationally. But you also don't want to just like use them for like really sparing burst. You know, like you kind of want to use it. I don't know. I don't know like a good second window to tell you like how many seconds in between your shroom explosions you should use, but I did kind of look at it, and like I'd say longer than a minute, probably bad. You know, on the 6-second cooldown, also probably bad. But there's
Yeah, I
still
played with them a lot on the PTR, like in the looking for raids.
I mean, did you actually manage to get into one, or did you just RP walk with us?
Well, I didn't do one with you guys. I did one before that, where there was a bunch of other YouTube people in there, and I recorded it. But I used my mushrooms a couple times just to see the number output that I was getting from them.
Yeah, I managed to see Haradon on the PTR on my shaman, and damn, the damage output on that fight.
Which?
Haradon, it's the second boss.
he's a Triceratops.
Yeah, I'm not gonna talk about that fight.
Hey, question: how did you guys do that this week? Did you 2 heal it or 3 heal?
We're
Missed the
25
25 man.
Oh, you guys! Come on, we need more 10s in here.
I'm in a 10. Well, I was in a 10.
I
Joe's
think,
in a 10, I think.
Both of them are 25.
I think HC like 3 healed it maybe. I don't remember off the house. But I think they 3.
Someone in chat that said that they 2 healed it on 10 man.
Yeah, like we tried 3 healing it like in several attempts, but really we just focused our DPS really closely on those guys that were flying down from the sky first. Like not even like paying attention to AoE or multi-dotting or all those little tricks, and we 2 healed it. And like our strategy was just like blow them up fast as possible, so there's nothing to heal, and we managed to stagger through it.
Yeah. I will say I do not envy 10-man guilds on that fight, especially on heroic, because LOL spells.
Yeah, I'm the only one that can dispel diseases in my group. I mean,
It's just, I feel so bad. Like, I heard so many people complaining about disease, and I'm just like, we have 3 priests, we have me, and then we have a bunch of other healers that can also dispel. I think we could get a druid with mass dispel as well. Yeah.
I mean, if it is a big deal and you're having trouble with that particular portion, because it's the poisons, they seem to be okay, right? I mean, did you guys think that healing that was okay?
The poison wasn't that big of a deal. The big deal was people taking avoidable damage and tanks not picking up like they were supposed to. That was the big problem.
Yeah, but if you, my advice
and
for a
people standing
10-man,
ice balls, that was a problem too.
that mechanic needs a better visual. Like ice balls are hard to see on a 10-man. I can't imagine trying to do that with 25 people because they were hard to see.
Yeah.
But no, if you are struggling with like the diseases, our group, we're half of us are engineers. So if someone is about to hit you, that melee swing, it's like per melee swing is when they put a disease on you. So put on your sprint boots and just run around the room. So no diseases go out. That's like a really effective strategy, surprisingly. Just kite.
Can the mobs be slow?
They can't be slowed. That's why I said you have to beat engineers, because that's like a
Yeah.
really fast speed boost. And if you blow up and fly in the air, I'll try to grip you out of it.
You could stack druids and have a roar rotation. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a totally would never actually suggest that strat.
I'm sorry.
Guilds have stacked druids for that kind of a thing before. Heroic, right?
Well, in our challenge modes, we have in my guild when we try challenge modes, we make sure to always have a rogue and a druid with us for mass stealth and speed boost.
Fun fact: I still haven't done those. I should probably get around to it.
Wait! I've done something you haven't done.
I have not had any interest. And well, it was really annoying because my entire guild had like these little like they had 10 people that specifically did challenge modes and hogged both tanks, and they did all of them like week 1, and never went back, except for like once or twice, and those were times where I was in class. So it's depressing.
I do like how we're talking about druids again. I feel like I single-handedly derailed that discussion. So, Vero, since I want to talk about druids more, I'm going to ask you, now that the tier 90 has changed and you have a smaller cooldown for the talent that pretty much everyone was taking, have you kind of played around with Dream of Cenarius yet? I kind of want to see if that's playing out for PvP. I know it doesn't do as much damage because Wrath, Resilience, healer damage, not that big, but I do want to see, like, are you using it for burst effectively, or have you tried it? Dream of Cenarius, I mean.
Not yet. I messed with it a little bit on the PTR when I was doing Battlegrounds. I was trying to PvP before the podcast, but I was not able to because the AVU queue was extremely long for whatever reason.
It's all those people playing that darn raid. Like, every time.
It's the call to arms this week.
Oh goodness, that's really bad then.
Yeah.
That place should be hopping.
I know. I can't wait to PvP this expansion on my monk eventually. I might do it this tier since they did all those big PvP changes, like after progressions. I can actually play catch up.
How's
Yeah, I
everyone's
tried
mana?
PvPing on my priest.
Like, how's everyone's mana in PvP? Like, since we're all PvPing, like, how are we all doing?
The few things I've tried on my shaman, my mana's been fine because I haven't been able to stay up long enough to hit to hit
I don't have issues with mana on either my priest or my druid. And my priest is not geared at all, so she basically gets like something stares at me and she basically dies. So
I haven't done real PvP, but on the new Isle of Thunder, I did some royal PvP on my monk, and I two-shot a priest as
Nice.
a Mist Weaver
Oh goodness.
because I hit him really. I don't think he had like any resilience because my blackout kick hit him for like 260k.
I did some stuff on my hunter, which is my main PvP tune. I had a chaos ball crit on me for 346k. So yeah, and that's with the whole with like 60% resilience.
Goodness.
I just kill people with regrowth.
So I think
I'm being dead serious.
shamans didn't have any changes. We went over priest changes. We went over monk changes. We went over druid changes.
Can I rant about druids?
In a minute.
Depends
Just a
on what
little
you
longer.
say.
In a minute.
Depends on what you say.
Okay. I want to rant about druids and shamans, paladins.
So, while Twisted is going to rant, if anybody has any questions for us, please feel free to ask us in the chat box. And if not, we'll just share some stories afterwards. So, have at it, Twisted.
No, I'm not going to make this like a big, long, whiny rant, but some things I do wish they would have done. Cenarian Ward. That thing, it'd be so cool if it scaled with haste ticks, am I right? Like, I mean, for druids, it's like nobody ever takes it except for tanks, and even then, I mean, it's kind of like, I think Blizzard, like, puts a frowny face on that sort of, like, mandatory talent sort of system. I mean, it does more healing per second and healing per mana than Nature's Swiftness and Healing Touch, but, I mean, if it got like an extra haste tick after a certain point in time, I mean that would be really cool too, because the other talent would still have a place in a lot of different gameplays. So yeah, rant, rant, rant. I wish Cenarian's ward would have like worked a bit better. I do like that it's affected by the Dream of Cenarius. I mean, I was trying to do some burst with it, but it's still like it's always the 3 ticks, and it bugs me to no end, like no end. And okay, what else do I want to rant about, Drew? Force of Nature. Okay, so like Force of Nature, it's that button that nobody takes if you're resto. I feel like that tier, they really can do a lot of funny things with that tier if you're clever with like that tier plus glyphs. Like say you take Incarnation. Obviously, Tree of Life, when you're rolling life blooms, you can get like a million Omen of Clarity procs. So you look at it not just as a healing cooldown, but you also look at it as a mana saver, kind of, right? You can actually do the same thing with the other talent. What's it called? Soul of the Forest? The haste buffer? Yeah, Soul of the Forest. Like, you can do that with Soul of the Forest and Wild Growth, but people, like, okay, so Soul of the Forest and Wild Growth, if you glyph Wild Growth, you can use Soul of the Forest, do, like, max throughput. You can also use that Soul of the Forest to roid out one of your life blooms. That can give you an extra Omen of Clarity proc. And that new bump up from 50% haste to 75% haste, I mean, that's not like a bad idea if you're just gearing for the first time and you're kind of like really struggling with mana. You can like roid out your life bloom on the tank and then just like get more Omen of Clarity procs. But you can't do anything fun with these stupid little trees that like get summoned and spam Healing Touch. So another thing I want to rant about is why doesn't that work with the glyph of Healing Touch? Like, it would be really cool if you could use a 1 minute cooldown that would make you get like a little roid, like bunch of Swiftmens for their duration. And I don't think it would be super overpowered. Yeah, because like the Swiftmen ground portion, there's still code that prevents it from overlapping. Like, you can't just like have 3 of those ground portions out. It'll just like take the old one away and put a new one. So that's not going to like super boost your throughput. It'll just give you like a little surge in Swiftmens. I kind of would think that would be good gameplay, and it rewards like creativity, you know, working with that in glyphs. I don't know. That's my ranty rants about druids. And then my ranty rants about shamans. Like, seriously, they keep trying to tweak these talents to make other talents like more compelling. I mean, we were talking a little bit about what does the most healing in the first tier. Like, you know, for personal over sustainability, we're talking about, you know, is Nature Guardian like more healing now if it's always proccing off cooldown compared to Stone Bulwark? And like the answer is no, but neither of those are going to save your life. So like nobody still takes those talents, and that's a real bummer because, you know, it's like they have like one talent, Astral Shift, that's like the best talent in that tier for utility, but they also have these cool buttons that like nobody takes. I don't know. That's like a minor rant though, because I mean they also have all those other talents that nobody takes. Like, has anyone spec'd out a Healing Tide yet? Anyone?
Probably someone has, I'm sure.
I still use Healing Tide.
Speaking of Shaman, I kind of want to go over this real quick from Josh.
You're making us fall asleep, miss. What do you want to say?
Anyways, so Shaman really haven't received any changes specifically because Blizzard managed to do something that most of us thought quite unthinkable after Cataclysm. Cataclysm was just this roller coaster of crap, and Shamans were just stuck in the middle of it. And somehow, going into Mist of Pandaria, they actually managed to balance Shaman in a way that make them good and stable in almost every scenario, in addition to giving them all of the tools they asked for throughout Cataclysm. So they actually have them in a fairly balanced position. There are a few things that could use some tweaking regarding, you know, Healing Tide and connectivity and all those stuff. But Shaman are actually done really well, and throughout the entirety of the Mist of Pandaria beta, Shaman were actually used as the standard in which they balanced other classes. Yeah. So it's really weird for me to say that after having played a Shaman through Cataclysm.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. And being a Shaman in Cataclysm, it's the same thing. It feels really weird to actually admit that Blizzard did something good, especially to my favorite class.
Man, you guys need to be more fanboyish. Like, don't you guys have a picture of, like, Ghostcrawler in your room with his thumb in his waistband, like, staring at you? I do my job!
I follow Ghostcrawler on Twitter. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll let it pass.
while I admit, Greg is pretty cute. I mean, he's no Chris Madsen, so.
I've never even seen what he actually looks like. Like, in my
I've seen him in
mind,
interviews.
he still is like
He's a crab.
Yeah, he's still the Spirit Beast crab that runs around.
Okay, you know the Stone Guardians encounter?
Yes.
Okay. Ghostcrawler was the model for that encounter. He kind of looks like that in real life, with less hair.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Still a cutie, though.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, we give him a lot of shit, but I will say he puts up with such an enormous level of crap from people like me.
But not
every
just
day.
that, but anybody who tweets him needs to realize that they are either going to get a sarcastic trolling response or a serious response, but 9 times out of 10, I can't talk tonight. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be the sarcastic trolly response.
It specifically depends on how you phrase your statements. Like,
Yeah,
Right,
people
but when
ask some really stupid
I mean,
questions.
the
if
way-
you ask him a legitimate question without being a dick about it, you're gonna get a pretty good response if he
Well, I
responds to you.
would. The way you ask, Mist, I understand that, but when you read some of these responses that are literally just. If you looked into the gamer dictionary next to the term QQ, you would have some of these like tweets to him, and then they get upset when he's sarcastic to them, and I just can't help but think,
Yeah.
what do you expect?
I mean, it's the same reason I always get a kick out of reading Dexari on like the D3 forums and shit, because oh my god, he trolls so hard. I don't know how he still has a job.
Because his job is to troll.
Exactly. No,
That is what they hired him for.
in chat, Rough Lobster must have healing add-on for monk. Weak auras or power auras. I prefer weak auras, but it's basically imperative to track your renewing modes in every possible way you can. You know, cooldown, duration, lowest duration. How many you have out? It's a very important tool for making sure you can maintain as many as possible. Like, I love Bloodlust now because I went for the haste breakpoint at. Oh, I'm way over the haste breakpoint right now, but I basically, whenever someone Bloodlusts, I can have like 11 renewing mists out before I press Thunder Focus 2. Oh, it's so good. So whenever I TFT, it's very overpowered. But yeah, I can only do that because I can track it with Vicaros.
Well,
So yeah.
since you're on, add-ons and everything, since you play as a Mist, what would you say were some must-have healing add-ons for monks?
Vicar.
Can we extend it to any class?
That's what the question was.
Yeah, that's what I just
I'm reading what the question is. I'm reading it from chat.
I know he just answered
That's what I
it.
just answered.
Oh,
Yeah.
I kind of spaced out.
It was Vicaros.
Well, going on the add-ons, what does everybody in here use for healing add-ons? I use Voodoo and cooldown timers.
Grid and mouse up. Yep, forever.
My most important ones are, I'm a Voodoo guy, but I used to use Grid with a billion plugins for years. So yeah, Grid or Voodoo with Grid with plugins or Grid 2 even. Those are the best for click healing.
You don't even need like a billion plugins. You only need what you call it, like mana bar.
Well, Joe and Vera, what do you guys use?
I use
What you cut off?
Voodoo.
She uses Voodoo because she keeps cutting off for some reason. What about you, Vera?
Well, up until about a week ago, I was using the default UI and a clicky mouse.
But see, that's okay. It's
But
good
now I
to
use
practice
Voodoo.
that.
Yeah, it is nice that going into the PTR like I do, that I still keep my skills of being able to heal with key bindings. over Voodoo. And Milk wants us to say that she uses Grid and Click.
Anyone here use Forte Exorcist? Like for classes that have really short cooldowns, that's my go-to.
I used to,
I used
but
to.
I don't really need it anymore. I use it for Bimkin
I
and Shadow
use-
Priest.
I use just weak auras now for everything. I don't need Forte anymore.
I don't have too many short-term cooldowns, but between my battle text and cooldown timers, it tells me.
I've always been the kind of person who can actually time things pretty well in their head. Like, I know when I use an ability, I know exactly when in a fight it comes up.
Hey,
So-
Mist, your ego's starting to show again.
Oh, I know. It's kind of what happens when you play Arrested Druid for 6 years and go throughout BC, having to manually track, like, 30 life loops, without mods. Yeah. That was...
Oh, come on. Click was a thing back then.
Yeah, but I didn't
Back
use it
then
like
it was,
that.
but that doesn't mean I used it.
Yeah.
You silly.
I went throughout Sunwell without ever touching a mod. Yeah.
I went through Sunwell without an add-on.
I was gonna say something, but I forgot. Go on.
I want to stroke my ego.
Oh wait, no.
We don't want any
Regarding
stroking in the
the
podcast,
monk-
Twisted. Stroking is against the rules.
Regarding monk
Too
add-ons,
late.
if you're interested in looking it up, as much as I hate saying this, Malady actually has a really good setup. He uses for his monk. You could just YouTube it or Google it. He has like a guide and showing you how to set it up. Gives you the setup itself. The only thing I don't like about it is where he has his raid frames placed, but I haven't feel like it's just because of how big his screen is. But it's a legitimately really good UI setup for monks. So you can look that up if you want.
Yeah.
I mean, a good UI, just regardless. Like, we can tell you all these add-ons to go play with, but really what you need to do is, like, you need to sort of think above your add-ons. Like, a good UI is always one that's going to just present exactly what you need to see and reduce the problems of taking away from your focus of what you need to see. So, like, that reduction of things, like, that take away your attention, like click casting a bar, then clicking a heal. If you can just click a heal directly in a bar with a mouse over, that's reducing that effectiveness. And if you can place all of your cooldowns, like, and your buffs and all that stuff that you need to see up front and center with your cast bars so you can kind of see them proccing, that's, like, making you more effective at presenting the information to yourself.
And if
Some
you
form of using all that is, like, my best advice for add-ons, and then, yeah, go shopping.
Minimalism is just ridiculously good for healing. Just
Yeah.
as little things you can have on your screen with as much information as possible.
And I know a lot of things that a lot of first-time healers do is they focus too much on on the health bars of people and not too much on what's going on around them or what they're standing in. So you also have to remember your UI needs to be able to give you a clear view of the health bars of your group, but also a clear view of where you're standing and what's going on in the surroundings.
Yeah, and to help me out with that, because positioning is so important, I think since last patch I started using, like, a lot of tanks have nameplate bar add-ons to make picking up ads really easy. As a healer, I started using that and keeping the healer flame, like the friendly target bars up full time with a Tidy Plates add-on called Neon Theme, and, like, it's been uber helpful for my raid awareness. Like, I can always see exactly where someone is standing, and if you raid with them long enough, you know their name, you know what they're doing. Like, it definitely, like, quintupled? Kind of sounds dirty, but it definitely gave me a boost to awareness.
So if people aren't doing this already, I'll have to have it. I'll have to find it and post it on the thread, but you should probably have the script that basically unlocks your camera and lets you zoom out really far. Having able to be zoomed out really, really far really helps during
It
raiding.
does, but still, one of the reasons I like Voodoo is because not only can I move it anywhere and keep it at a smaller size, so I can put it right above my cast bar, so it lets me, I can glance, even when I'm looking at the health bars, I'm still seeing what's going on in front of, or around my character. But that is another thing.
It's specifically to watch raid mechanics.
Yeah.
Like on Darumu, without it, I probably could not do that.
Yeah, we just linked it in... Vero just linked it in the podcast, the live chat, but you should be zoomed out pretty far as a healer, just because it helps you see everything that's going on around you. And it's the same thing. You need healers. You need to be hyper aware of what's going on, because you're doing twofold. You're trying to take as little damage as possible while keeping everybody else alive.
Yeah, you need to worry about everybody. Tanks usually just need to make sure they know where the boss is and they know they're not standing in bad. DPS need to make sure they're not standing in bad. Healers need to make sure nobody's standing in bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, just a question: how do you guys have when you have your frames organized? Do you have the groups vertically or horizontally?
In Voodoo, if I'm going into a 25-man, I have it vertically, but if it's a 10 or a 5-man, I have them horizontal.
I have them all vertical only.
Yeah, I switched mine up just recently. Mine are now horizontal, but the reason I had them vertical to begin with is because it's less mouse movement to go between the two groups. Like, if everything is vertical, they line up and stack in a more condensed block, whereas if they're horizontal, they're a big long line. You have to scroll your mouse all the way across the screen, and it's also strains your peripheral vision. If it's front and center, it's easy to see, but you also kind of have to find that sweet spot where if it is vertical stack, that's a lot more screen real estate space, especially if you have it at the bottom of your screen like most healers do. So that's you kind of have to play games like that.
I mean, for me, it's what Iron said, 5x5 for 25. But I have my raid frames generally in the bottom left corner above my chat box, and my mouse almost never leaves the grid area ever. So it's there's very minimal movement. My mouse is pretty sensitive, so I tap a little bit and it goes far. It's
Yeah.
not really a big problem.
Yeah, mine are right above where my cast bar is, kind of down center on my screen, but I use 2 rows of horizontal for 10-mans. And because it helps that even when I'm looking at that, I can still, out of peripheral vision, see everything that's going on with my character and what's going on in the raid. So, when I'm looking at the raid and not keep staring at my health bars, I can still see what's going on.
Morin, do you have yours sort of organized a little bit differently because of Prayer of Healing is party restricted? You said horizontally, I think, right? Oh no! My priest and my comrade.
I think we lost
gone.
him. Joe's been lost. Let's all have a moment of silence for our fallen comrade. Okay, that's
in funerals, this is the time when I start laughing.
Same. I always have to go to the bathroom in air quotes, because when they start saying things like that, I can't help but just start to giggle.
You call me a bad person? Jesus.
Okay, I'm the type of person, I go to a horror movie, and when somebody dies, I say, "You dumbass."
Yeah, but that's different from a funeral.
I can't help it.
Usually I don't go to funerals unless I'm going to be crying a lot, so,
Why not? It's the best place to score chicks.
Well, seeing as I'm already in a relationship, I can't think of it that way.
Anyway.
Don't listen to them. Everyone in WoW is single and alone and friendless. You're okay. We're all okay. We're all in the same group.
She lives!
Where did you go? I asked a very pre-specific question. I was like, friend?
I'm sorry. I had to get up for a minute. What did I miss?
Well, we had a moment of silence for you because we thought you were dead.
Oh my god, I wasn't dead. I had an emergency. I'll tell you about it later.
We're reinforcing gender stereotype, and we're contemplating our misery.
About how everybody who plays
lives.
WoW are 40-year-old virgins 40-year-old male virgins that still live with their parents.
55 here.
I totally do.
Or wait, 55's too young. 80.
So Joe and Vero are actually guys?
I'm not a guy. I just have a very high-pitched voice for a guy.
Or you could just be using a voice manipulator.
That's true.
This is taking a turn for the not constructive.
Yeah. I apologize.
This stopped being constructive as soon as we were done talking about the classes, honestly.
So, So Druid and Paladin
And
monks.
shaman.
Did
and
we talk
sorcerer.
about shaman?
Shamans,
Sorcerer.
the only real change to shamans that Resto could use to be conductivity now is 30% over 20% the healing done, but that's pretty much it. Oh, and
Milk wants to talk about the dinosaurs.
one of the spells, it's ancestral something, I forget the name of it, but instead of a 3-minute cooldown, it's now 90 seconds, so it's a lot better.
Milk Mazoftly entered channel.
Yes.
And yes, so we also have a dinosaur park in Isle of Giants, which I actually think is really fun.
I went, and I was terrified of the dinosaurs, so I left.
Has anyone gotten them out yet?
I do not have them out. I don't have enough.
There's a
coins yet.
mount?
Which
Oh,
mountain?
that mount.
999.
Yeah.
If you get,
9,999 bones.
you can get them
Oh,
out.
not that mount. The other mount.
Also, Milk
What
says
are the
hi.
mount?
Hi.
You mean the rare mobs farm?
Yeah, like there's rare mobs in Pandaria that you can kill. I have locations if anybody's interested in them.
Yes,
What
I
And
do.
they have a chance to
PM.
drop them out.
One of our shamans got the Triceratops smoke.
Nice.
But if you don't, if you don't get them out, they drop like reputation things for like Golden Lotus and Shadowpan. So I was doing it last night with Riot and one
Yeah,
of its
one of
friends.
the.
I ended up getting like 5,000 rep for like various different things, and made a lot of gold too. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, the.
Yeah,
Apparently,
each
Blizzard-
single item drops 1,000 rep. And you get up to like 5 items for different reps.
Apparently, Blizzard decided to add mounts into the new raid without telling anyone. So, G-Kun actually drops a mount that looks just like it. It's flight mount.
Is it recolored?
Nice.
Otherwise, like,
I
why do
think
the rare farm?
Well, I think. Wait, is there a rare that drops one that looks like it?
I don't know.
I
I
don't
literally
think so.
have like not played the island nearly
Well, no,
enough to have
this
credibility with.
This is like from the raid, so
This is from the Throne
Like-
of Thunder raid.
yeah, it looks like the boss G-Con, like, and it drops from them. There's also, I think, there's a pet that drops from Dark Anima. Yeah, so those aren't in the dungeon journal, but they're there apparently. I found this out. because one
people
of
have
my
gotten
friends- yeah, one of my friends got it last night from their G-Con kill, and he linked it to me, and I hate him. So yeah.
So, I think that's really it about changes in 5.2. Does anyone have any stories or anything from what's happened other than Miss? Because then he'll take up the last 15 minutes of the show we have.
I think Milk should tell a story because
Yeah, Milk, tell us a story.
she hasn't talked.
What?
Godzilla.
Godzilla?
Don't tell that story.
No, I want to hear the story,
No,
but I'm
that's
gonna
We'll tell you about that
I'll
later.
listen to it after this. So,
I'm
Milk, tell
curious
us,
with a hint of racism.
Milk,
interested.
tell us a story of the many rares that you've killed already, because you've killed at least what you said 5 today.
Oh, about 5 today over on Thunder Island. It's not that hard, really. You know, the funny thing is, I was doing the quest for Thunder Island on my PvE realm Tauren, and I kept on saying in chat how horrible this must be in PvP realms. But on my other priest, when I'm doing on PvP realms, it's like everyone leaves each other alone, and it's hilarious.
I think I've had one PvP experience on the Isle of Thunder in the however many days I've been doing it there, and that was me going to help a friend because he got attacked. We had more issues today on the Isle of Giants than I've had on Isle of Thunder.
Yeah, that poor hunter.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about the 3 strife people that they're following us, and then we're in the middle of a pool, and all of a sudden they're killing us.
And
Yeah,
our priest is
kill-
AFK.
Who killed me while I was AFK? I need to come on there when I'm not AFK and kill them back.
It was a druid named like Chaat.
Okay, I'm gonna come make a character on your server just to kill him.